Hello, hello. I'm back after taking a mini podcast sabbatical over the holidays. I was attempting to be a decent husband, father, and human by not being too connected to devices while on the break. And that meant not recording podcasts. But we're back. We're coming in hot with more content. So this is one secretly I was trying to get out before I took the break, but nonetheless, we're going live with it now. But this episode, I'm looking forward to it. We're highlighting some of the most popular episodes and clips from 2023. So this was a fun year for the podcast. We actually had our best year. Obviously, we pushed more things on YouTube. We had a few things on YouTube go viral, but I'm not highlighting the ones that did the best just from a stats perspective. Oh no, I'm highlighting the episodes or the clips that are near and dear to my heart. The ones that I think I got good feedback from and need a little bit more attention, need the spotlight shined on them. But before I get to those, some of the most popular episodes that are worth checking out are the number one was actually episode 119 with Matt McGarry, the newsletter guy. He talks about how to make millions from a newsletter, and that went super tactical. That one went really pretty big on YouTube as well. The second most popular episode of the year was episode number 109, and it's from Sam Altman. It's actually a retrospective on a blog post he wrote titled "How to Be Successful." It's something that I reread every year. It is packed with information. If you're getting into like 2024 planning and goals, I would go read that one. And then the third one was around what was that, episode 120, and it was the idea of liquid mind, how to create mental frameworks to scale to $100 million with unique and innovative thinking by Will Hughes. And again, that was episode 120. That was a real fun one. Some other honorable mention ones would be how to pick the right startup idea and hitting $26 million in 3 years. That's episode 129. And then how to get your first 1,000 customers from Kickoff Lab CEO Josh Ledgard. That's episode 118. Okay, so that's the greatest hits album. Now we're going to go to the favorites. So in this episode, I'm going to hit on the clips that really resonated. We're going to talk with Natalie Ellis, CEO Bossbabe. We're going to talk with the CEO of Proven, Ming Zhao, who went from idea to 8 figures. You're going to hear a clip from Bryan Clayton, which I think is the most underrated episode of the year. Then finally, a podcast favorite, Craig Swanson, a guy who sold all of his companies and launched 6 startups in 10 weeks. We'll get into it, but I really hope you enjoy some highlights from 2023.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure.
We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did.
Nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
All right, let's go to episode 123 first. Here I speak with Natalie Ellis. She is the CEO of Bossbabe. Now, this is a community with over 1 million female business women, and this episode gets really tactical. We talk about how to grow an engaged community in 2023. She talks about the importance of just focusing on one primary channel to grow your audience, but how that becomes a hub and how it's crucial to create a content systems to focus on distribution. So hope you enjoyed this clip with Natalie. I want to talk about, you said something like you were really intentional on focusing on your community, even in the early days and now. What are some tactical things you could say? I'm like, okay, done. I'm going to go YouTube. I'm going to do podcast or email. I love that point on long form. You're building this content. How do you then latch on this idea of community? Because I think there's a difference between having an audience versus a community, right? It's either like one to many versus it's like one to one and a lot of engagement. What are some things people can think through when wanting to build that community? This is very selfish as we're building our email list and podcast, because I'm like, man, I'm not engaging as I should. What are some things people should do?
Well, For starters, I think people might be surprised to know I reply to every single email that I get as a response to my newsletter, and I reply to every single DM that I get on my Instagram. And it's not something that I outsource. I generally, if someone tells me, oh, such and such signed up to my program because they heard about me through you, I know who that person is. And that's the way that I've thought about community. It's not that I put out a piece of content or I put out a product and I'm kind of putting it out there to a number of people. I'm putting it out there to specific people. And I feel like I have that real connection with them. And I know you sometimes hear people say that, but I really mean it. And I think the people that have strong communities also really mean it. There are certain things and principles that I've always stuck to make sure that I never ruin that relationship with my community. One of them, for example, is if I release a program, I release it at the lowest price it'll ever be, because I know the people that buy it right away are the people that know, like, and trust me the most. You will never find me doing a Black Friday sale 6 months later and offering this program at a reduced price. That is going to make those fast movers, those loyal customers, feel so unseen. I'd never do it. You'll never see me bring someone onto the podcast that I don't actually trust or believe in, and I will not have them share their knowledge with my audience because I believe that they're a conduit to, like, coming through me. And I feel like people who listen to me having conversations with them are going to trust them because I trust them, and I'll never compromise like that. I won't upload an interview if it wasn't very good. And on one side of things, does it lose me money? Sure. On the other side of things, does it lose me relationships? Sure. It's actually lost me one relationship in particular. And I don't really care. I'm not really doing it for the relationships and the money. I'm doing it because I really honor and value my community. And like I said, when you think like that, you're thinking long term. I'm thinking about being here 10 years from now. I'm not thinking about what does my profit look like 1 year from now. And I think that's the real difference between audience and community building.
All right, now we're going to episode 124. I meet with Ming Zhao, the co-founder and CEO of Proven Skincare. She is a juggernaut and extremely impressive. She went from idea to 8 figures in under 24 months. And she shares her story of going from Y Combinator to Shark Tank to hitting 8 figures, all while becoming a mom. So really hope you enjoyed this episode with Ming. You have gone from idea to, in your first 4 years, you hit $24 million in sales. That's insane. That sounds like something a lot of listeners would like to do. So I want to really kind of unpack that a little bit, because we have a startup studio. We're launching a men's grooming product. We've been working for a year on the formulation, and we're losing money on this, whereas you have, in 2 years, you were able to make this very impressive. So first, I want to even start how long did that formulation process take before you could even turn the site on to start making money?
Thank you so much, Jim. The formulations process, even before that, we didn't go into entrepreneurship, my co-founder and I, with a clear plan of what we're going to do. In fact, we started with our technology. So my co-founder is a computational physicist from Stanford, and I have more of a business background. What we had was an inspiration that skincare as the status quo, where everything is one size fits all. Everything, it's like you walk into a department store and you tell the counter lady, oh, I have this, I have that, this is what I want to deal with. And the counter lady would likely give you a couple of things that says, oh, this thing will do miracles for you. That thing would do miracles for you. They're all very expensive. And then in walks another customer who looks nothing like you, is not your age, doesn't have the same skin issues, nothing, no similarities whatsoever. And the counter lady would again say the same thing, like, this thing is going to be miraculous for you and for you and for you. And that from a biological perspective, the fact that our skin is an organ of the body, and we all have different bodies and different skin, and our differences require a different set of ingredients and treatment and products. Like, that just doesn't make any logical sense to us, and it never did. And that's why we were so frustrated with the market ourselves. We ourselves were customers and also avid consumers and passionate users of skincare products. And we ourselves came upon this sort of crossroads where we just were feeling so frustrated with the industry and with what we needed for ourselves. And that's why we were inspired to start a new way. But even then, in the beginning, we didn't know what we were doing. We all we knew was that we wanted to personalize skincare, and we wanted to use data to do that. So similar to how Chat GPT, has built this conversational AI tool, we also used AI to gather all the scientific literature and evidence and real life evidence there was to skin and the care of skin and the ingredients and whom they do what at what under what circumstance, to first understand skincare. So we gathered all the scientific literature there was, of where there little more than 4,000 peer-reviewed scientific journal articles. We used AI to collate, understand through all of that, and then we also gather all the empirical evidence, so all the people throughout history who have tried skincare products, what's happened to them, and now we have more than 28 million people, and where they're at, where what type of skin they might have, what skin issues they're dealing with, and how have different ingredients responded to their skin, etc. So starting from that, we called that the Skin Genome Project. And we first built that because Amy, my co-founder, is a computational physicist, and that's where her strength is in terms of data and AI and understanding data. So we started from there, and we built this database, and we immediately got some accolades around the database. And that's when we decided to turn this into an actual company. And that is around the time that we got into Y Combinator. So we got into Y Combinator with a database at a good level, but without a clear understanding of what the business model of the business would even be. We just knew that something had to change, and this was a good starting point to change that.
It's time for the most underrated podcast of the year. Even my editor, Ezra, is like, we've got to include the one with Bryan Clayton, and I agree. So this is episode 136. Bryan started a business in high school and parlayed that into a 150-person lawn care company that he sold for millions to private equity. Then he decided to teach himself to code and started a tech company that ended up becoming the largest landscaping network in the nation. Think of it as Uber for landscaping. And Bryan's super impressive. He shares his frameworks, the mistakes he made, every step along this amazing journey. And it's packed with action, insights, advice, and tactics on anyone that's getting started, how they should approach doing a tech company or doing a boring business like the lawn care one. So hope you enjoyed this clip. I like your point, though, of like, one, you see like a potential light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to these conferences like, wow, you can build an amazing business in this category. So it's like game on, you're focusing on the right thing. And then it's like, you mentioned stealing from others, getting inspiration. Where was like your superpower? Because like, I don't think we should gloss over you built a 150-person company. Is your superpower and like you're good at like productizing, operationalizing this company, creating SOPs and getting it to scale? That you mentioned like the McDonald's of landscaping, or was your superpower in like marketing, or was your skill set in just like, I feel like my skill set is in pain tolerance, where it's like I can just like endure the pain that others won't to like keep things going.
Yeah. One thing I learned early on was like Mark Cuban has a good quote that sales cures all. And I learned that, 5-6 years into the business that I wasn't in the landscaping business. I was in the sales business. And I had to, and I was over indexing on, well, we've got great trucks and we've got great pieces of equipment and our employees have uniforms and we train our employees and we really care. And our properties look immaculate. And what I didn't realize was like all of that was table stakes. Like that's what the customer expected. Like they don't care about all the things that went into that. And so like I had to have that just to play the game. And I thought that somehow made my business different. And I thought that somehow was a value proposition. And it wasn't, and I was really operating in a competitive marketplace where if you didn't have a compelling value proposition, you were selling on one thing, and that's price. Were you the cheapest? And that's a great way to go out of business. And so I had to do two things. I had to develop a value proposition, and I had to develop a sales process and a sales team to be the engine to get us from, I think at the time we might have been at $1 million or $2 million in revenue to get us to 5, 7, and 10. And it took a long time, but that's really what I focused on. I focused on the quality of the services and training of team members and all of that operational core as table stakes. Like, just you have to do that. But then where we were going to innovate and where we were really going to spend a lot of time improving and honing and experimenting on was the sales process. And how do we differentiate ourselves from our competitors, and how do we prospect better, and how do we know about when this office complex, before a shovel even sticks in the ground, how do we know about it's going to come online, and we know who the developers are, and we know who to reach out to, and we know when to pitch them, and we can be the first person in the door to try to get that business. It took a long time to develop that process, but we had to build that sales engine to propel us to 8 figures in that business, or else it would have gotten stuck at 20 employees and 2 million.
And finally, a pod guest favorite, Craig Swanson. Craig is back in episode 147. And Craig, he's a friend of mine from our entrepreneurship group here in Seattle. He's one of those people, when you talk to him, you just feel like you're getting smarter. And he recently sold all of his businesses, some for 8-figure exits, and he didn't know what to do with himself. So what he did is he decided to, I forget what he called. He ran like a startup sabbatical, where he was trying to find himself. So he launched 10 different startup ideas in 6 weeks. And he talks about, the framework for coming up with ideas, the framework for launching them, how he validated them. Some of them are starting to become very real. He shares everything he learned on this kind of really impressive entrepreneurial exercise. So hope you enjoyed this clip from Craig Swanson. Like, what are these other distribution channels that'll pop up where you could use their data set? Like, obviously Slack has launched theirs. It's not as new as it was. I know Stripe's opening up like a marketplace where you could come in and use that data set. Obviously, like Zoom, there's already a bunch of tools we use. You introduced me to Read AI, which I am obsessed with and use on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But those are things that I'm thinking through as well to like shortcut the distribution part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think things are changing so rapidly that I would not try to build a 10-year company or a 100-year company in AI. I think we might be able to serve a need and might be able to really iterate rapidly and stay on top of what's happening. But we are so early, so early in AI that when we look back at like the solutions we come up with today, they are going to be so tinker toy compared to the solutions that we're going to be building 5 years and 10 years from now. And so a lot of it is also just getting a place at the table and being able to like create something interesting. But also to learn, to set up a path to be able to like be forced to continue learning within a narrow band, because I feel like right now in a lot of ways, you remember when the App Store for the iPhone first came out and people were making tens of thousands, the flashlight app. So I genuinely think that a lot of the first things I was launching were the flashlight app equivalent of AI. There's a lot of people doing flashlight versions of AI, which is just this really thin little skin on top of AI that is amazing, but it's really pulling all its value from what the underlying AI system is doing and not adding a lot to it.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's interesting. But and like whether something really flushes out now versus down the road, you're like setting that foundation to be in the room within AI building things, and like the doors that opens, I think is a really exciting, even within like our entrepreneurship community, you're already the like kind of the AI guy. You did a talk on it. Like me and Adam are hitting you up for advice and stuff. So that's exciting, man. But what else? What else are you thinking through, or should we talk about around this? I won't make you spit out a bazillion half-baked ideas because you kind of already did. But I can't tell people enough to go to craigstartup.com to see everything. It's super inspiring how you did that so fast. Like, I really don't know how you did that. Like, did you have to set guardrails on like the version has to only have this and we're saying no to all these other things? Because feature bloat is so real. Coming up with the name, a logo, all the unnecessary things can take stupid time.
So yes, for one thing, like I said, I've got a bunch of tools in the back end that I built just to streamline my own process, from basically ideation to naming to domain. So it has to have a domain name, it has to have a name, like all these little things that just have to happen. It has to be trademarkable if we're going to end up going a little bit farther on that. But the big thing is we end up building in a lot of back end stuff. So the reason I'm able to turn this out so quickly is because we're building out recipes for AI app development or AI tool development, where there's basically kind of like right now, there's like three fundamentals, basically systems to upload data into some form of semantic vector searchable database, the database organization itself, and then the front end system that basically does all the querying. And what we've done is we've really streamlined the front end system. So we've got this front end system where I can basically do really rapid creation of tools because that is so simplified. It's basically what we end up having to build so that I could launch an app every week. And then most of the stuff we're doing on the back end is we're doing a lot of like custom uploads and different things like that. And so to someone that doesn't necessarily know on the back end, like I'm able to have a conversation and come back in 24 hours with a functional tool. It's because maybe one of the things that's actually most interesting when I show them to other developers is the tools we've got on the back end to allow us to build an app every week is in itself maybe the one of the things that we end up like launching.
Your byproduct almost is your product. Because I'll be honest, as you're doing this for our different clients, I'm like, can I just get access to that and just do that for all of our clients? That's super exciting, man. Well, Craig, I'm going to put all this stuff in the show notes as far as what you're building, and you and I need to talk a lot more about this stuff. But where else should we point people if they want to see what you're doing?
I think you could send people to craigstartup.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. And and especially if you're an entrepreneur with an existing business, or you've got an existing audience, you want to talk, I would love to connect. I'm looking for someone that can shortcut that service to a really big audience and has a problem that's going to be significant enough to really work on for the next 5 years. So I am actively talking to people, especially in the large volume of content space. So if you've got like huge libraries of video, or if you have ideas on what you'd like to be able to do with like automated marketing systems around reviews, these are both things that I'm actively talking about right now.
Yeah, and I want to crack at that. I want to do one of your launches to our email list of like 13,000 people and see what happens. But yeah, hit Craig up. But Craig, thanks so much for the time, man. This was fun.
Hey, thank you.